What's up, everybody? Welcome to the very first episode of the 1% Better Podcast. Whoa, it feels fun saying that. Legit, the very first episode. So if you're listening, you're an early adopter, and that makes you one cool cat. So thank you for tuning in. Much appreciated by me. In this episode, I'm going to show you how I focus on just 1% growth each day to transform my life. It worked for me before and after brain surgery, and it can work for you too in your career, your health, and your relationships. Let's get into it. So today's episode, I'm going to be discussing the power of small improvements and how you can apply this mindset in different areas of your life: health, career, relationships, as I mentioned earlier. But before that, I want to share how this podcast started and how the 1% Better brand started too. So it started back a couple months ago. I had a headache, kind of came out of nowhere. I was sitting at my desk for work and I could not focus. Had really trouble staring at the screen, so I laid down. Headache got worse. I started not being able to speak. So my wife came up and checked me out. She started realizing something was really off. So we called an ambulance, went to the hospital. They did a CAT scan on me and realized that I had something in my brain. Shortly after that, I had a seizure and passed out, woke up from a coma 2 days later. And at this point, I learned that I had a cavernous malformation in my brain. And for everybody that doesn't know what a cavernous malformation is, which is probably a majority of the people listening here, it is a cluster of blood vessels that are in your brain that never fully developed. So this thing could have been there since I was a little kid, for all I know. It was very unexpected and instantly within that moment shifted my outlook on my health, my priorities, and just life in general. Surgery was a few days later, and facing brain surgery, which I never thought I would say, it was a humbling experience. It forced me to really confront that fear of helplessness and the uncertainty of what the outcome would be. What would I be after it? Would I be able to even speak to you right now as I'm doing? In this process, faith and patience really played a huge part. So during and after with the recovery, I had strong faith that my guardian angels would be close to me during this whole process and would help me with my health. And I learned the importance of patience, as healing requires really surrendering the control. And it really did give me a new perspective just on life and every moment you go through and how you approach it with a renewed sense of purpose. And it inspired this brand. As I've done these things before brain surgery, it was magnified after. That is the core philosophy behind the 1% Better brand, focusing on making small, meaningful improvements every day. So I look at life just a little bit different now. What am I saying? I look at life a lot different now. And a quote that I love and has stayed very close to me is, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. And the mission of the 1% Better brand is really to inspire individuals like yourselves to pursue incremental improvements in all aspects of your life, just focusing on small, consistent changes that really do lead to long-term transformations. But for me, I didn't really grow up with the 1% Better mindset. As everybody that knows me, I didn't have that. I developed it over time. I became a student to trying to improve my life and improve others around me. And like I mentioned earlier, it magnified after surgery. So I was always going for home runs growing up, literally in baseball and also just in life in general, producing music. I thought I was going to work with the biggest artists right off the bat within a year. I starred in a few independent films, landed some roles, and I thought I was going to be in blockbusters in Hollywood the next year. Also health. Health for me, 1 or 2 random workouts I thought was going to be good enough for me to stay healthy. Like, are you freaking nuts? That's the young mentality that was in me because of growing up playing sports. I could eat whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, because I was so active. But that changes as time goes on. And I realized in my late 20s that trying to make big leaps wasn't sustainable. Just wasn't going to work. So I shifted to minor improvements where I was just like, you know what, I'm going to do a little bit. And it started adding up over time in my professional life, personal life, my sleep, my diet, and also even being mindful. So let's take some examples real quick. My work ethic. I had crap work ethic. Young. I developed it over time to improve. It's easy to make the change of, okay, I'm going to work hard. But how do you change to working smarter? And for me, that was creating a muscle memory by doing a little bit more each day and structuring my time better, using time blocks, taking better notes on calls, asking better questions. And I only started with each of these categories. And then it built 2, and it built to 3, and it kept adding on. And then it even impacted my personal life with my sleep. For me, I grew up not knowing how to sleep properly, but I started reading books, articles, interviews on things that I could improve with my sleep that were things that couldn't make all these changes in one day, but I knew that if I added one new thing each day or each week even, it was going to compound over time. Diet is the same way. I looked at it what it was. I had a shit diet. A lot of bread, processed foods, sugar overall, alcohol, all the things that pretty much deteriorate your body over time. Just like that analogy people say, one cigarette isn't going to kill you, but if you do it every single day consistently, you're certain that that's going to kill you over time. And I think where I come into play with the 1% better mindset is I'm not the first person to talk about this. I'm not even the 100th. I'm well beyond that. This has been around forever. James Clear has a book, literally one of the best sellers, Atomic Habits, where it just talks about the role of small changes in creating long-term habits. Those tiny habits model recommends that starting with very small, easy to achieve actions like flossing your teeth, brushing your teeth. Let's get off the topic of teeth. Making your bed. All these little things builds momentum. And I want you to key on that word momentum because we're going to keep talking about it. Over time, this process creates a habit loop where the brain automates the behavior through repetition. And then you also have the compound effect. Darren Hardy's book explains how small choices, positive or negative, that's another thing I want you guys to focus on. It's not just positive, it's negative too, are really the basis of massive long-term success or failure. And he shows that daily decisions build up over time. They can be positive, but they can also be negative. So making these choices for, let's just say, a healthy snack over a cookie or a sugary anything, or spending 10 minutes a day learning a new skill will compound over time. And it will lead to quantum leaps as time goes on in your health and your professional expertise. And this is well-supported behavioral psychology at this point. And that demonstrates that small, consistent action builds habits that stick. There's a reason this works. And I mentioned it earlier, how it builds momentum. But the 1% better mindset is sustainable. It avoids burnout. Feel like you've achieved something every time you do it. And like I mentioned, it builds momentum. And there are practical benefits from it too. It reduces being overwhelmed because you're not trying to climb Mount Everest in a day. You're taking one small step forward. Instead of feeling that pressure to make drastic changes, you can focus on manageable small wins that add up to significant progress over time. What's better than that? And I want to now talk about how you can apply this in your life. We talked about the theory of 1% better, but let's talk about how do you apply it. Health and fitness, for example. You can apply this mindset today with improving your health. For instance, take 5 more minutes with your workout or add another set. If you're doing chest that day, add another workout for chest. Or if you're walking 2 miles, go 2.5 or 2.10. Anything, any type of just improvement there. Or replacing one unhealthy snack with a healthy one. That's a different option. Shifting even to your career and personal development, how small steps can work there. For me, I wanted to improve reading, even though I still think I stink at reading. I take 10 minutes a day to read. And I started with 1 minute, a minute and a half, and then I went to 2 minutes. So anything like that, sending one small networking email for your field of how you can learn a new practice that you didn't know before. These are big career gains over time. And then we can even look at relationships and well-being, of how the 1% better mindset can improve your relationships. Spending a few extra minutes with your loved ones, instead of just scrolling on your phone aimlessly on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, any of these social networks. They're there to grab your time. So be mindful of that extra few minutes that you can spend with your loved ones can make a huge difference. I have a 1.5-year-old right now, and she's doing something new every single day. So for me, I want to be making sure that I'm as present as possible. So little ideas for you guys to focus on and make sure that you're striving just for progress instead of perfection, because it's all about the progress. It's not about the perfection. Confucius has a great quote that I think will hit home with everybody listening to this right now. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. He also mentioned that it does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. And both of those quotes, I write an affirmation every single morning to myself. I write it in my notepad of, it doesn't matter how much progress you're making as long as you're making some progress and just moving forward. It's just chipping away, just doing a little bit. And there's practical steps to really get started with this. So I'm going to challenge everybody listening to do just something small. Let's start with health. Eat one less unhealthy snack today. Or cut yourself off an hour before you normally cut yourself off for food intake. And just set small daily goals. Track your progress. Like, just write down in a notebook. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just write it down. It goes from that all or nothing mindset to a growth mindset. And I'll tell you right now, all the winners out there focus on a winner's mindset to build consistency rather than perfection. So that's the 1% Better podcast. The first episode is down. How about that? High fives. Yay. So I'll see everybody on the next episode. We're going to be talking about all the areas that are in the 1% Better book, but also having guest appearances on from other people that are looking to do 1% better in their lives. Look forward to speaking to everybody soon. Take care.